Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey everyone!
Nick's here and Naomi.
And we have Nikita back here.
In our van. And we have a special guest today. We have our doggy, Haka. And he's normally not with us in our van here. So kind of a little bit of an update. We've been traveling in our van, visiting different parts of America for the last 3 months, and that is finally coming to an end. It's bittersweet. We're excited, but at the same time, it was really sad just because we've had such a fun time. And where are we going in, what, 8 days?
Yep, so on the 28th we are leaving for New Zealand. And we're going to stop over in LA for a night and then fly out of LA to Auckland. Then we have our 2-week quarantine, and then we're gonna see my family, and they can finally meet this little one.
Yeah. So it's interesting, right when we land into New Zealand, they take us directly from the airport, from our plane, directly to a quarantine hotel where we stay there for 2 weeks, and we don't leave our room for 2 weeks. So that'll be interesting. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll see how it goes. So today we're gonna be talking about our experience of living in this van for the last 3 months, just with Naomi, myself, and this little one who was living with us and just having a blast.
Cutest one ever. Yes, you are.
So we're going to talk about the things we really enjoyed, the things that were really struggles, just our overall experience, and maybe some things we would have done differently or wish that we had. So, you okay? So, struggles number 1. Traveling with a baby can sometimes just be rough in general, and I think just living with the baby is a learning curve, just because they fuss sometimes, and sometimes you have plans that you want to do and it just doesn't work out for whatever reason, because the baby just isn't up for it. We had a plan to go to the different national parks and see as much national parks that we can, and like see a lot of the beauty of America, and I think we did that pretty successfully with the baby, and we'll make a video on like how we packed and our hiking gear and like adventure gear with the baby that we could actually use. And that's a whole nother, topic in itself, because there's so much stuff that you really need when you're traveling with a baby, regardless of if you're in a van or not. But overall, the experience was awesome. Any struggles that you thought throughout the experience?
Yeah.
Specifically of not just traveling, but living in the van.
Sleep.
Yeah.
Sleep was a struggle. 3 of us in a full-size bed. For starters, that was a challenge. We did not intend to co-sleep. Our intentions were, we have this lovely space down here, which you can't see on the camera.
Here, I'll show you.
You'll see on
We're just kind of hanging out right here.
But there's this lovely space down here that is the perfect size for her travel crib. And it is basically mesh walls with a thin mattress on the bottom. Yes.
So our initial plans were every night we were going to have the travel crib here. She was going to sleep in the travel crib right here, and we were going to sleep in the bed back there. And those plans were erupted when we realized... Interrupted, not erupted. When we realized that it was so hot in so many places that we were at that we had to have the car running, because this is just a conversion van. It's not like this is meant to be fully lived in.
Challenge number 2.
And so we would basically have the car running all night to have the air conditioning on, just so it was bearable in here. But with that said, we didn't realize that, at least in this kind of van, when the car is running and it's not actually moving, just the AC's on, the ground gets so hot, like the hottest you could possibly bear, and like you touch it and it actually hurts based off of how hot it was. So we had Nikita just here in the pack and play, just sleep, and it was not working. It was just way too hot.
I tried sleeping kind of next to her inside the pack and play. Yes, we can both fit in there. And like the bottom, my back was just like becoming like a sauna. It was very hot. So that was why she didn't want to sleep the first night. And I was also just a little bit worried about her on the floor of the van while we were up a little bit higher. And I didn't feel comfortable leaving her down there. So I brought her into bed with us, and we did our first night co-sleeping.
Unexpected.
Unintentional.
Yeah. And that was a struggle, honestly. Nick
and I both like to move around and roll in our sleep, and she likes to sleep all different angles, perpendicular mostly. So Nick and I are like rolled outwards on the sides of a full-size bed, and she's like across in the middle. So she's about to grab the camera here.
Don't do it, baby. And so, yeah, that was just a big struggle of learning how to co-sleep in the first place, how to co-sleep like in a running car, and then how to co-sleep in just a full-size bed.
Nick and I shared a king-size bed.
Yeah, so we're used to a king-size bed in our big fancy house that we sold before we left, and now we're going to a full with the baby with us, and it was just a struggle. So I would say the whole 3 months, we really didn't get a whole lot of sleep. And that was, in my mind, really the only struggle, I would say. What would you say? The other struggle that I would have is that there's certain activities that we couldn't do that were adventurous activities. Like, for instance,
ice climbing.
We went ice climbing and they wouldn't let us ice climb with the baby, obviously, and that's fine. So Naomi stood back for that. There was rafting trips that we did do with her that we got a really nice life vest for her and everything like that, but we weren't gonna do like whitewater rafting with her and stuff like that. And so
very, very safe river.
Yeah, so
very safe raft.
yeah, so if there was struggles, it was sleeping, and then you're limited to a few activities that you can do. But in the end, it was still awesome. Like those were the only negatives that we really had. All right, so now what would we do differently? And keeping in mind that this is for someone who's not going to be doing this full time. This might be a year, this might be 6 months, it might be 3 months like what we did.
Yeah,
and
so we knew we were only going to be doing it short term. It was finite, it had an end. We bought the van specifically and we knew we were going to sell it right at the end as soon as we're done. So we purpose bought this van. What would we change?
Yep. So change number 1 for sure is definitely get a high top. Without a doubt, you need to be able to stand up
and sleep in a low top van.
Yeah, you really.
I mean, that's our recommendation. Maybe other people can do it.
Honestly, the other van people that we've talked to, though, they recommended that to us before we bought our van, yep. And we're like how if we want to stand up, we'll just walk outside. No, guys, no. You get a van that you can stand up in because it makes all the difference.
Yep.
Not only for just moving around, but just how you feel in general, and like the claustrophobia and stuff like that you feel in the confined space. This little one wants to crawl out of the window here.
Yeah.
That's good. One of the benefits of getting a conversion van like this as opposed to a Sprinter van, Nikita's just walking in front of the camera there, but you'll see the outside of our van, it's a conversion van, and so in my opinion it was a lot more stealthy in terms of like where we could sleep, and it felt like that, but in reality it wasn't.
It didn't matter.
Yeah.
The areas that we were going to, like national parks, they are, security guards at Walmart parking lots and everything. They're on the lookout for just anyone.
Yeah.
People staying in station wagons. Like it really didn't matter. Where it was a benefit to have just a regular size vehicle as opposed to an RV was just driving in general, being able to turn around at dead end streets if we went the wrong way,
which is
going
often.
in regular parking spots as opposed to trying to find a longer one.
The ease of actually driving this as opposed to having like a huge Sprinter van or something like that was a benefit.
Yeah, so we really thought that we would need a stealthy van, but we honestly didn't.
Yeah. Even if you have just a little Toyota Camry or something like that, you're gonna
get kicked out of the same
be
parking
kicked
lots
out.
as we did.
Yeah. So that was one of the things that we got this on purpose because we wanted it to be a little bit stealthy, and that really wasn't a factor.
And the other thing that kind of gave us away was that it never was the perfect sleeping temperature.
Yeah.
Never. It was either too hot or too cold. So we kept the car running either all night or off and on. Every couple hours we would wake up being sweating and whatever. So we had the car running, which kind of would give us away if
someone's
we were
in there.
trying
There's
to
a car
be
running.
stealthy. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a couple parking lots where someone knocked on our windows and said, "Hey, you're not allowed to, stay here overnight. You have to leave." And they were always very nice about it. It was never like a scary instance or anything like that. And when we slept, we would have a sheet over this area here. So like the front driving area was separate from the sleeping area. And so it was nice because Naomi and Nikita would generally be sleeping and I would just come out, talk to them, and and then drive to somewhere else. And typically I would ask them, I would say, okay, you know, sorry
Do you
about that,
know
I
of
didn't know.
anywhere?
Do you know of anywhere? And almost always they would say, yeah, you can go to that street or that
Like,
parking
oh
lot.
yeah, there's
or-
always RVs parked along this road or in
Yeah.
this parking lot, and everyone was super courteous,
Yeah.
just really nice about it.
You could tell that they didn't want to kick us out. Like, it's
Yeah,
just an
yeah.
awkward situation.
Yeah.
So
We're like,
yeah.
hey.
After the first couple times, what had happened was 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
So, you know, throughout the whole 3 months, it wasn't that often, but, you know, it happens here and
We
there.
realized that Walmart is not the best place to park in.
We
apparently.
assumed like every Walmart,
Yeah.
and we had a Planet Fitness membership
Yes.
specifically because
Specifically
it's
for
24
this.
hours. We can shower there and sleep there, but no, they kick you out as
They
well.
do. They kick you out.
So that was
Yeah.
one of the worst
was a
experiences, I think. Yeah, that was, if anybody was a little not nice to kick us out, it was Planet Fitness usually.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was a bummer.
They didn't appreciate people using their facilities just for showering.
Yeah,
apparently.
I understand though, you know? Yeah.
So if you are wanting to do this a little bit more sustainable, I would recommend getting some sort of ventilation or air conditioning system with a separate either battery or something so that it's not, you don't have to have the engine running.
Yeah, that would be huge. And if we were gonna do that for more than 3 months, I would say it's like a guarantee we would have to do that. For this, like the conversion van, obviously like they have like the fancy glass, we have like a fancy TV, which we didn't use once. Literally not at all.
None of that matters.
None of it mattered. If we would just take that all out and then put a rooftop air conditioner, it would have made things so much better.
Yep.
And so I would really recommend if you're looking for a van to do this, find one with a AC that runs separately.
Climate controlled, high roof.
Exactly. Those are like the 2 big things: climate
big
control
things.
and a high
Yeah.
roof.
And then everything else is really personal.
Yeah.
We would have liked to have a kitchen, but for a 2 to 3 month trip,
Wasn't essential.
It wasn't essential. We could eat, you know, we had a cooler, we had a little Yeti cooler, and that did just fine. There was a couple times I wish we had a kitchen, but honestly, most of the time we were fine. We didn't need a bathroom. We made do.
You can stop at every gas station and go to the bathroom or grocery
Yeah.
stores or anything like that, and you're stopping at those places anyway. So,
We thought that might have been an issue, but it never was once. So yeah. You want to come back? One of the main reasons that we chose a conversion van was that it was already set up
with seats. And so we had the driver's seat, we had the passenger seat, and then we had a back seat here where we could put our daughter's car seat. And obviously that was imperative. And there was a separate area here that we took out the seat, the other bucket seat, because that was, we figured was gonna be our sleeping care area. It ended up not being, it was just our hangout area. And then we had the whole back area that we took out the bench seat to put the bed in. And so,
I would say it worked really well for travel. It
Yeah.
worked like driving around. It worked perfect because I could be back here with Nikita entertaining her. You know, I could lay down in the back and we could swap out, drive all night if we had to. One would sleep and one could drive. So it worked super well for that.
yep. You know, one of the big things to think about if you are gonna be doing this with a baby is that your nights really end at their bedtime, because her bedtime was typically 7 p.m. Sometimes it was 8 p.m. And come on, Haka, back up. And because of that, there was 0 things that we would do at night because it's not like we're gonna leave her in the car sleeping alone. And so that was our night. It was, you know, sometimes she would go to bed and we would hang out up here, but realistically,
A couple times we did bring the camp chairs outside right next to the van and just hang out outside and eating, you know, little cheese and crackers and snacks, and that was really nice.
but it was tough
then-
because every time we would open and close the door, if she wasn't really used to the noises, like sometimes she would wake up. And so like often it really wasn't worth it. At the end, we used our camp chairs outside of our van very little because we just felt like it's just not worth it. Let's just sit in here until it's time for bed
And
for us
usually
too.
we were stealth camping and we didn't want everyone to know that we were, yeah.
Yep.
So-
And then the Instagram photos of having like the back open and, you know, looking at the sunset. We did
that
it once. And it was awesome. It was so good. We were at what
Crater-
national park?
Crater Lake.
Yeah, Crater Lake National Park, and it was awesome. It was so wonderful. But realistically, like that's not going to happen all the time. It's very rare when you actually have the opportunity just to sit there and just enjoy the scenery. If you wanted to have a cross breeze, it was almost impractical because you couldn't have the windows open because it was either going to be too noisy because you're in the city and you're giving away that you're sleeping in a car in a city, or it was too buggy or too muggy outside because you're in the wilderness and bugs are going to come in. And so it wasn't practical to have a cross breeze and have the windows open, so we would just always have the AC on if we were too hot. So eating, how do we eat and drink, and yeah, how do we actually live from day to day? So we did have a Yeti cooler, which were, you know, it was wonderful. Yeti coolers are supposed to they keep like ice cold for up to what, 5 days? Ours would go about 2 to 3 days. Yeah, and I think a lot of that attributed to the reason like of this conversion bed in particular. I'm assuming they all do it. Was the floor was so hot, and so it was like a heater on top of this, you know, Yeti cooler. And so we also had a little camp stove that I'm sure you've seen in some of our videos, and we would make coffee with it. But a lot of like, for us traveling is experiencing the different cultures of food and different cafes, and you know, a lot of the traveling part is eating, and so and experiencing different foods and restaurants. And so that was the part that we really enjoyed, to do all of that. We honestly very rarely would make a meal.
Yes.
I would say.
And if we were traveling more long term, we would want to, but
yeah, I would make a much more of an effort to, especially because it's expensive to, you know, not cook yourself. It was a lot more expensive than we initially anticipated. But that was part of it as well. We knew this was like a one-time deal. We were just going to do this one time. We just wanted to do it right, and so I think we did. What did you think overall of how it was?
You know, after having a couple nights of good sleep, I'm seeing it in a lot better light than I was when we were on the drive back to Illinois. I think it was a wonderful experience. I am so glad that we did it, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. America is beautiful. We loved the national parks that we went to. You guys have probably seen a lot of our videos that Nick took, and they got kind of more and more technical.
More production.
More production as we went along. So very much enjoyable.
You know, without this trip, I probably wouldn't have got like a nice camera and a lens and like, yeah, gotten even into this. Yeah, and a drone, and even gotten into this. So, you know, if nothing else has come out of this, just to get a little bit of a passion about filmmaking, like that's been a really fun thing that I've really enjoyed doing. My overall experience is I loved it. I'm so glad we did it. I would not want to do it full-time forever. I think that it was really nice that we basically knew it was going to be about 3 months. We were expecting, because basically we were just waiting for Nikita's New Zealand documents and my New Zealand documents to get into New Zealand before we eventually will be going to Madagascar. And so again, the overall plan is still to go to Madagascar, but the Madagascar embassies are still closed, so
the borders are closed, and
so we're going to be basically waiting out all the lockdown stuff in New Zealand, which, you know, that's not complaining there. And so we kind of knew it wasn't going to be a full-time thing. Once we sold our house, we were really looking forward to, you know, seeing parts of America as well. All right, guys, well, thanks so much for watching. We appreciate you following along with us, and our next step here is to move to New Zealand and be in quarantine there, and we're going to live in New Zealand for really until the borders open up, until we move to Madagascar. So it's kind of interesting. It's like hard to believe we're going to be moving countries 2 times, possibly within the next year. 3 countries, I guess, that we're going to be in within the next year that we're actually moving to. And so in New Zealand, we are going to be traveling. We are going to see the country a lot, and we're really excited to do that. We are not going to be living in a van. We are going to be, we're expecting to be renting a house and have a home base, and then do day trips outside of that. And New Zealand's a lot smaller too, where you can actually do that. You don't have to travel, you know, 8 days to get to the other side of the country. So yeah, so thanks for watching, guys. We will talk soon, and have a good one. Hey, by the way, if you guys have any questions at all about this whole process that we've done about buying a van, living in a van, traveling in a van, especially with the baby, just ask us in the comments below. We'd love to help you all out. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk soon. Thanks for enjoying our trip with us.